1,793 days. That's how long it had been since Manchester United last won a trophy when Erik Ten Hag was announced as manager in April last year. And less than a year later, he'd ended that dry spell at the first possible opportunity. For so long, Manchester United had been mediocre, with false dawns getting their fans' hopes up before things fell apart catastrophically. However, under the Dutchman right now, things seem to be very different. This is the story of how Erik Ten Hag ended Man United's trophy drought. Let me just start off this video by going over how bad things were at Old Trafford when Ten Hag took over. The Dutchman had seen an incredible time at Ajax before joining United, where he revitalised the team in decline over the past few decades, winning title after title as well as seeing an incredible run in the Champions League. Although that being said, he'd never dealt with a challenge the size of the one at Old Trafford. In the previous campaign, the Red Devils had seen their lowest points tally in over 30 years, with their star player trying to force his way out of the club. This came following a disastrous spell for Ralf Rangnick, who took over from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer after the Norwegian departed in November. Under Ole, United had fallen at the semi-finals of various cup competitions 4 times in 2 years, before finishing as runners-up in both the Prem and Europa League in 2021. A side which was formerly known for hard work, passion and most importantly success was now a shell of its former self, with a terrible dressing room and a new controversy every week. Players looked as if they didn't want to play for the shirt, the owners had distanced themselves from the side and the fans had gone sick and tired of it all, as they watched their biggest rivals lift trophy after trophy. To put it simply, Erik Ten Hag had a lot of work ahead of him, and at first some even thought it was too much. After a strong pre-season, United would see a shock to the system as a loss at home to Brighton was quickly followed up by an even more embarrassing 4-0 loss to Brentford, as they dropped all the way down to bottom of the league. Understandably, rival fans and the media made a big deal of the 2 losses, as pressure had already been mounted on Ten Hag, with questions around whether he was capable of the job already being asked. But it would be at this point where we saw a shift in this United side, something I've already covered more in depth in an earlier video, so I'll keep this one short and sweet for anybody who's already seen that one. Ten Hag had originally tried to bring in principles of his Ajax side and embed them at Old Trafford straight away. However, very quickly it became clear that this would not be possible, and so combined with new signings, we saw things change in the red side of Manchester. He instantly became far more pragmatic, looking to focus on doing the small things right rather than introduce an entirely new system, so they could get a few wins on the board and boost some confidence into their players, which had worked entirely, going into their first League Cup tie on the 10th of November, around the same time where we saw another shift. By this point, the Red Devils were now 5th in the table, as Ten Hag started to bring in more expansive football at Old Trafford, largely aided by the addition of the likes of Casemiro and return for Varane, as we saw them slowly build into a much better team both in and out of possession. Moving away from the tactical side of things, we also saw Ten Hag sort out disciplinary issues at the club, improving fitness and gave new players bigger responsibilities, which has seen them shine. The likes of De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, Rashford and Sancho are all players who've improved massively under Ten Hag and are now being utilised in ways better than ever before, as we've seen their role in the team stay the same even if being played in different positions, making United a much harder team to face. Focusing back onto their League Cup success, it's easy to forget that things did not start off great for Man United. After going behind twice, United saw a couple of late goals drag them through their opening tie against Aston Villa before the World Cup break, in which both of their starting centre-backs had made it all the way through to the final just 3 days before their tie against Burnley, who was soaring high in the Championship. Martin Dubravka started, keeping a clean sheet, meaning that the 2 goals from Rashford and Eriksen were enough to see them past their next challenge, starting a run of 7 straight wins following the restart, notably including a quarter-final clash against Charlton and a Derby Day win at Old Trafford, which signified just how far this side had come. United were now well in the title battle, as well as all 3 cup competitions, heaping even more pressure on the shoulders of Erik Ten Hag to win a trophy, especially given they'd now reached the same stage in which this squad had time and time again failed under Ole. Now, touching back onto United's failure in semi-finals, a lot of it comes down to just a few things. Firstly, Ole was never an elite tactician, meaning that when coming up against the best of the best, a lot of the time United would simply be outplayed. As well as this, his style of play heavily relied on space in behind, and so when opponents sat deep and made it hard for them, then United would struggle to score, which partnered with an underwhelming defence caused them huge issues at the top level. Most importantly though, and sometimes underappreciated, Ole's side did not have the winning mentality. Seen in each final as players would underperform and often didn't look up for a fight, allowing the other team to win and preventing them from seeing any success. However, under Ten Hag, that's all changed. Not only did he bring in winners, but he also transformed old squad members into them as well, where after sides like Man City, Liverpool and Arsenal had all been knocked out early, there was little doubt in anyone's mind that United would be able to progress through against Nottingham Forest, and that's exactly what happened. A 3-0 win away from home at the City ground, a tough place to visit, was then followed up by a 2-0 home victory, as United brushed aside one of the form sides in the league, where they would then come up against Newcastle in the final. I'm sorry to cut in here, I just have one thing to ask. At the moment, a lot of people watching these videos are recurring viewers, however are not subscribed to the channel. And so if you don't mind, it would be massively appreciated if you could subscribe now, as it helps in pushing out these videos to a wider audience. Okay, back to the video. The Red Devils would not be able to rest up ahead of the clash though, as they'd joined Barcelona in the Europa League, who they had to face twice in the 10 days before the final, playing an extra 180 minutes of football while their opponents were sitting at home resting. And importantly as well, Newcastle were a tricky team to face, with the best defence in England and a side who were more than comfortable making it hard for their opponents, shown by the fact they'd taken points off of all the top 6 teams in the division going into Sunday's final. It was not going to be easy for United by any means, but this is where the progress made under Ten Hag was showcased once again. In years gone by, a team like Newcastle will have defended tightly, forcing United to control the play and try to break them down, before then counter-attacking and scoring to give them the win. However, under Ten Hag, United are a completely different animal who can dominate teams on the ball if they have to, meaning this wouldn't be an option Newcastle could risk. Giving some of United's best players time on the ball in small spaces would have had devastating consequences, and so for one of the first times this season, United forced Newcastle to have the ball, allowing spaces to open up in their tight mid-block. Most notably though, Nick Pope had received a red card in the game before the final, and with Dubravka returning to the Toon Cup side, it meant that the third choice keeper Lloris Karius was the only man available to them, having not played a single match in over 2 years. And just 40 minutes in, United had made it 2, a goal which by the way was not Karius' fault, contrary to what some people are saying online. About an hour later, and David Coote blew the final whistle, with De Gea keeping yet another clean sheet this season, where finally, after over 2,000 days of waiting, Man United fans watched on as their players lifted silverware at the earliest possible date for Erik Ten Hag. But as we know, the football world moves on very quickly, especially for those at the top, and so the question on everyone's lips is what is next for this United side. Now pretty much the whole of this video is going over the end of their trophy drought, but it would be irresponsible of me to not mention the fact that United are still on for the quadruple. Erik Ten Hag has proven once again that he knows how to win, but particularly that his game management is incredible, something we saw specifically in their comeback against Barcelona last week, which is massively important in winning trophies. Now of course, it wouldn't be massively surprising if this Carabao Cup is the only thing United win this season, but I think given that Arsenal will almost certainly focus on the Premier League first this campaign, we may see Erik Ten Hag with the Europa League trophy in his hands as well come the end of this season. And also, it's important to note that right now Man United are just one trophy away from matching Liverpool's tally as the most successful team in English football history, where come May, they might just be clear at the top of this list, as we've seen Erik Ten Hag well and truly bring glory back to Man United. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did and you're new around here, make sure to like, subscribe and comment. Links to all of my socials will be in the description, and most importantly, enjoy your day.